of me. Hello everyone, my name is Brandi. I'm the president of Northwest Canadian Greyhound League, a volunteer-run sighthound organization that has been placing sighthounds and sighthound mixes in Western Canada since 2000, so we're actually like 24 years old this year. Dan has dedicated so much of his life to this little organization, and all of the pups that we've taken in, countless noodle horses have found love and happiness through NCGL because of his limitless dedication, hard work, and loving heart. So many lives have been changed for the better because of his love of these skinny dogs and the people he befriended along the way. Well, I made it down through our mutual love of sighthounds. Our friendship was so much more than that. Sorry, this is hard. I met Dan way back in 2011. He was volunteering with another greyhound adoption agency, and a greyhound named Jessica was lost in Bragg Creek. I sought a few from volunteers to help search for her, loaded up my very first greyhound, Sophie, and drove out to the area to help look for her. Dan was coordinating everything like he so adored doing. He was always incredibly organized and applied his background in project management to absolutely everything he did, good or bad, as anyone who has ever done a project with him can attest to. He was a lot smaller back then, but weren't we all? His trademark beard was a heck of a lot shorter, and his hair was darker and took up a lot more room on his head. But he still had those sweet blue eyes. He couldn't join us on the search due to some mobility issues, but he never left the parking lot, welcoming new volunteers and making sure every single person knew where to search. Well, we never did find Jessica, and I always hoped that in my heart that a kind family found her and gave her a long, enjoyable life. I did find a friend that day. I'm not sure how it happened, but we became so close after that. Somehow it went from looking for a lost pup to getting together every single week for lunches and dinners, followed with long and treasured conversations on the phone, and a genuine feeling of love and friendship for each other. Well, he would help me with NCGL, and I would help him with his adoption group. We didn't care who was placing the pups, only that the pups were being taken care of. He did eventually join me at NCGL, and I'm so incredibly grateful for that. I was trying to do a lot of my own, and I really needed and welcomed his dedication, structure, and passion he put into helping me find families for these pups we both loved so much. The poor dude didn't know what he was getting into, though. He was a stickler for planning, and I was a fly-by-the-seat-of-my-pants girl with ADHD who thrived in a crisis. He had lists, printouts, plans, mind maps, and flowcharts. I had a stack of papers thrown around the back of my car, and multiple disjointed thoughts in my head that only made sense to me. On top of that, Dan was used to placing retired racing dogs. They usually come up on calls from feeder groups in the States and tracks, meaning you usually knew their history, personality, ages, sex, rough idea of what type of home they were in, they needed. They were always fully vetted, tended to have waiting lists of people to adopt them. Well, I've always loved the retired racers. My passion has always been the coyote hounds. They were a complete opposite of what he knew, but I grabbed his hand and pulled him headfirst into this chaotic world where you had no time to plan and always had to react fast. He was surprisingly amazing at it. He hated it, though. He had a spreadsheet set up right away. For those who don't know, in Alberta and Saskatchewan, farmers will regularly use sighthounds to hunt coyotes. While some of these pups we took in were well taken care of, a lot of the time they were in danger of being euthanized, were usually kept outside 24/7, and the most information you got was, she's a really good throat dog. Yeah. In fact, Dan's beloved Ginger, a pup he fostered who came to us with her 7 puppies not even 24 hours old, was just that, a great throat dog. She was so much more than that though, and I'm so proud of Dan for taking in a dog that was so completely out of his wheelhouse. Nobody wanted her because of her history. They were scared of her or what she would do and judge her for what she had done in her past. But he stepped up and gave her the best life a beautiful girl with long, fuzzy, golden hair could ask for. In fact, Dan started his bi-weekly meet and greets. Pardon me, greyhound gatherings. Sorry, Dan. It was Ginger, the cat-zapping throat dog that ended up being our #1 meet and greet superstar. She was great with other dogs and loved every single person she met. In fact, when kids would approach her, she would immediately roll over for belly rubs. After that, every single person wanted to adopt Ginger. She was there when she was right where she needed to be though, and she loved every second of it. They were such a team. Despite him being completely foreign to this world, he embraced it wholeheartedly. Whenever I told him there were pups in need, he would drop absolutely everything and would drive out to the middle of nowhere to get these dogs. For some reason, it was always during the worst snowstorm of the year. And if any of you have ever been the passenger in Dan's car while Dan was driving, you know how terrifying that was. He was an absolute maniac behind the wheel. It would be a complete whiteout with all major highways shut down, but we were damn well going. Right now, that day. There was no convincing him to push it to a day with better weather. He wouldn't take no for an answer. He would always start the morning by keying in the coordinates to the middle of nowhere into an extremely ancient and out-of-date GPS system he absolutely refused to update because it was too expensive. And off we'd go. There would be absolutely no slowing down for conditions, and I would watch as he calmly put the pedal to the metal as we slid side to side, and I would pray that we made it back alive. We always did. The man was a legend. He was there when we went to go pick up his incredibly shy girl, Queenie. A puppy owner said we absolutely had to get that day or she'd be shot. She never had known anything but her outdoor pen full of mud, poop, and bones of roadkill and dead cows pushed over the chain-link fence to feed her. He was right there behind me in that pen, balancing on those adorable little unsteady feet of his, helping me drag her into the crate and into the new loving life with him and Phil. He was with me when I got a call from Animal Control about 7 dogs were abandoned to freeze and die in February on a farm in Saskatchewan after a kind neighbor heard them barking in the distance. He was there when I told him a kind farmer had fallen into poor health and his neighbors were overwhelmed looking after his dogs. I brought the first batch of 7 teenagers back, and when the owner's health sadly turned for the worse and he passed, Dan, I, the neighbors, and some wonderful volunteers headed straight back out to catch the remaining adults. On top of the 7 teenagers, we ended up getting another 4 males and 1 female, who 2 days later gave birth to another 8 puppies, who were born in a warm home rather than in the snow because of the dedication of some amazing and kind parents. And finally, he was there. And finally, he was there with me when I picked up my daughter Daisy, who's just over there, with her 11 puppies on the last rescue we did in October 2022. He was always ready and willing to drop everything for the dogs. He was right there with me as they barked, snarled, and snarled at us out of fear. He was always there to help coax them out of their shell. He loved these dogs so much. As mentioned before, it wasn't just about the dogs for me and him. He was truly one of the best friends I've ever had. He loved going to Earl's for dinner and getting to know the waitresses, always leaving them absolutely ridiculously massive tips, and making sure he covered meals for any people he saw eating alone. He'd sit down and pull out his folder of NCGL business I hadn't taken care of, and ordered his full order of baby back ribs and warm potato salad. I'd eat something, and then I would proceed to have more than a few drinks while we got caught up. Conversations lasted hours. He'd try to keep me on task, but with a few drinks and my ADHD, it was an impossible task. We'd eventually move on and get caught up with each other. We'd finally finish the evening, regularly ending up as one of the last tables at the restaurant. He'd make sure my tipsy butt made it home safe, and then he would call the next day with his list of things we needed to get done that I did to dress him, followed always with kind conversation. I cannot express how much Dan has done for me in the pups, and how much I miss him. I miss his ridiculously long, out-of-control beard. I miss his kind blue eyes. I miss those little black shoes he had such a hard time balancing on. I miss his absolutely psychotic driving habits and the way he complained about getting a ticket for something that was always 100% his fault. I miss our daily phone calls, our Friday lunches and dinners. I miss spending countless hours in his van as we made the journey in the middle of nowhere to help some pups in need. I miss the way he befriended complete strangers and the way he made everyone feel important to him. I'm lucky to miss him though, and so are all of you. We are blessed to share this group because we are the lucky ones who have him in our lives. There are people out there right now who have never met him, and while they aren't feeling the absolute crushing heartbreak of his passing today, their lives are less for it. Dan lives on in the hearts of every single person that loved him, and the lives of the families and pups that he helped bring together. I'm going to finish this way too long speech with one of my favorite quotes from the email. How lucky I am to have something that makes saying goodbye so hard. Rest well, my dear friend. You were taken too far too soon, but are never gone. You live on in the hearts and memories, and I look forward to a night of good drinks, great food, and amazing